Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. My name is Dani.
My name is Athena.
And this is episode 109. All right, everybody. Well, welcome back. We have Athena on today. You might remember her from several episodes back now. We did an interview about her story. She is one of the coaches at Vegan Proteins, and she is fantastic. And one of Athena's strongest suits, I think, is talking about mental health, actually. So she's a great coach for nutrition and exercise and all of that. But as you all know, it's really important to us. Like, even if all those pieces are in order, if the mental health part isn't there, you're going to have a really hard time hitting your goals. And Athena really leans into that and does a great job with it. And when we were coming up with topics for this month, one of the ones Giacomo and I wanted to talk about was body image. And I said, hey, Giacomo, it'd be great if I talked to Athena about this instead of you. So, so actually we considered like all three of us being on this podcast, but we thought it would probably just be too many people. Let's get used to guests and then we'll see if we can handle 3 people. So how are you doing today, Athena?
I'm doing swell. How are you doing?
I've been better. So this is not going to come out till March. Right now it's the beginning of February, and I just got off the tail end of a, I don't know, 48-hour stomach bug or something very unpleasant. But
Love that.
Gave me an excuse to get out of bed where I've been working from for the past 2 days. I mean, not very far. Like, I can see my bed from here because I'm just in the closet. That's usual. But yeah. So you just got back from a trip to Europe. How was that?
That was amazing. I went to see my friend who lives there, and we went to Amsterdam, and then we just went back to Germany to hang out. I think for anyone else, that probably would have been a very boring trip because, I mean, the Amsterdam part was fun because we explored a lot, but once we were back in Germany, we basically stayed in her apartment the entire time and just hung out and caught up because we hadn't seen each other in so many years. So it was really nice, though. And there's so many vegan options in Europe. Anyone that thinks it's scary to go to Europe because they're afraid of not having vegan options, they're everywhere.
I was getting mad watching your stories with how many vegan options there were in Europe. For example, you posted you were at a Dunkin' Donuts in Europe, which is native to Boston. Like, it's native. My little cover fell down. It's native to where I'm from. And they didn't even have soy milk until a couple of years ago at Dunkin' Donuts. They were so adamant that they were not going to introduce anything plant-based. And then you're in Germany eating a goddamn vegan donut at Dunkin' Donuts. And I was just livid about it. Happy for Germany, though. Good for them. Great.
Yeah, Germany and Netherlands had vegan donuts at Dunkin' Donuts, and they had many. It wasn't just like a couple. Like, they had like at least 10. And then there's also the McVegan at McDonald's. The fries are actually vegan there, not dipped in beef fat or whatever is here.
Yeah, that's it. It's just really, I've never been to Europe. Hopefully, knock on wood, I think we're probably going to go to the UK this year. That's word on the street is Vegan Proteins might have an appearance in the UK later this year. So we'll see if that pans out. But yeah, it's crazy. You know, my mom, obviously she grew up in Massachusetts. She has not traveled a lot. And when I tell her like where we live is one of the least vegan friendly places that I've ever seen, she's like, how is that possible? And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, Mom. There's better vegan options in Austin, Texas. And she's like, how could Texas possibly have better options than, I'm like, they do. I don't know what to tell you. Like, we are so behind the times. It's insane. So
can't relate. Anyway. Yours is nice.
But that's not what we're talking about today. Today, what we're going to be talking about is body image. And that is a huge topic of conversation, really across kind of any industry, but I feel like especially in the fitness industry, in the health industry, this is a real, it's just a huge topic. You could break it up into a million little topics, but for today, I have no agenda. I have no specific talking points. I have no questions. I basically just want to have a conversation about body image as it pertains to fitness and physique goals and things like that. So first of all, what is body image? I think defining that in the first place is pretty important.
Body image. Okay, body image. What would I define it as? I would define it as how you view yourself, how you view your outer appearance, how you view your physique. Very different than, of course, like your inner. It has nothing to do with how you feel about yourself on the inside. It's all about your appearance and how other people view you, how you view yourself. That's how I would define body image. Yeah.
That's pretty close to what it looks like the definition actually is. I looked up the actual textbook definition of it before we started this, and it says the American Psychological Association defines body image as, quote, the mental picture one forms of one's body as a whole, including its physical characteristics and one's attitude towards those characteristics. And then the National Eating Disorders Association describes it as it's how you see yourself, how you feel about your body and its shape, and how you physically feel in your body. So, yeah, that's pretty close to what you just said.
Yeah, I don't know that I would say it's how you physically feel in your body, because that's not really an image. That's a
I think they're kind of getting into like body dysmorphia when they say that. Like if you're, really small, like if in reality you're quite small but you feel like you're very big, or vice versa. We could talk about bigorexia in the fitness industry, which is the opposite, where people just feel like they never have enough muscle. But when we think about body image, like, okay, what would you say is like a healthy body image to have?
Oh, that's a good question too. I think healthy body image would just be feeling content with yourself, not always being extremely excited about your body. And there's like two spectrums. Like there's either you really, really hate your body, or you see people that really, really love their bodies. I feel like a healthy middle would be just like appreciating your body, appreciating it for what it can do for you, appreciating it for all of the different features, and not necessarily always being happy with it, but being able to accept it and live with it and not let it define you or let it define how you live your life. I think that would be a healthy way, rather than kind of what you see of like people are like absolutely in love with their bodies, and a lot of people really, really struggle with that. So just being content and working towards contentness, I think, is healthy.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Is in the last, I don't know, like 8 years or so, I feel like we've seen a ton of body positivity content, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's feeling positively about your body, regardless of where it's at. Whether you're big or small, or able-bodied or disabled, or have super smooth skin or stretch marks or taut muscles or belly rolls or what have you, no matter what, being just super, super in love with your body. And I like the concept, right? Like that sounds pretty fun. That sounds like it would be a cool place to be. I don't know that that's achievable for most people. I consider myself to be fairly body positive, but I have never ever just felt like, ooh, stretch marks. Yay, love those stretch marks. Like I've never felt like that. I see other people that at least claim to, so I have no reason to not believe them. But I've not experienced that. I mean, do you know anybody that you feel like is actually truly like that?
I know people who claim to be like that, but then I also will hear them comment on like, oh, do I look fat in this? Or like, how do I look in this? And then I'm like, like, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know any person that is like fully body positivity where they just do not care at all. Every single person I know that we've talked about body image or some sort has had negative thoughts towards their body. So I don't know that having no negative thoughts towards your body at all is something to strive for. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think that can be a really, really extreme goal to have. And I think people get really overwhelmed with that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just doesn't seem like a realistic thing for most people to strive for. And I feel like trying to strive for that is leaving a lot of people feeling really frustrated that they just can't get there. They just can't get to a place where no matter what, they wake up and just love everything about their bodies. So yeah, to me, it's not that I don't think that's necessary. I mean, sure, that's a great body image to have if you have it. I just don't think that it's realistic for the vast majority of people. Like you said, I don't know anybody who's actually like that. I don't know one person who is actually like that.
Yeah.
That said, I do know quite a few people who kind of just are not that interested in what they look like. Like they're not that concerned with what they look like one way or the other. And to me, like that's kind of goals to me,
Yeah.
to like just not spend my precious brain space worrying about what my body looks like, or its shape, or that all the time. Because I think especially in the fitness industry, we spend a lot of time thinking about it just in general as a whole.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I'm just curious, like, what do you think about, I mean, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this because you've posted some of it, so I'm trying to think of the best way to ask this question. What do you think about the way the fitness industry in general sort of does to people's overall body image?
Uh,
That's a huge question, so you can answer that or break it up however you want to.
I think that is a big question. I think it's a hard one because it's something that is very individual, of course. But I think in general, the fitness industry is very much all physique based. It's all look based. And rarely is it discussed of, I mean, there are people who have goals that are, of course, just feeling better and wanting to be able to function better. But typically, the people who are getting the most views, the people who are getting the most attraction are the ones that are showing their bodies, who have these ideal, subjectively nice bodies. And I think that can be really, really heartbreaking for many people. I don't know another word for that, but it can be really hard to see for a lot of people. And you can say like, oh, just don't look at it or whatever, but it's not a new thing like with the fitness industry or with body image in general. Body image has always been a problem in terms of the way they display them. Like back then, it used to all be magazines and um people would strive to look like the models in the magazines, and now we're striving to look like the people on Instagram. And I think people put such an emphasis on looking like these other people when those people don't really look like themselves anyways.
I
So
just recorded a video about that. Like that's what the video is going to be called. Like it's not edited. Might be out by the time this podcast comes out, but it's literally called "She Doesn't Even Look Like That." And in the video, I take a picture of myself, and while I'm talking, I'm face tuning the video to look completely different by the end of the video.
yeah, people are
But
editing everything. So it can be really
Mhm.
devastating on someone's mindset because they don't even know what realistic expectations are for fitness. Everyone has these ideal expectations because that's all they see on Instagram. But realistically, progress takes a lot more time than they show. And it's usually not going to be the end result. Or if they get to the end result, they're probably not going to be very comfortable there for long.
Yeah, that is super, super true. Um, and your genetics does play a role. Like what you are able to achieve is going, your genetics are going to be the foundation of that. And I think we're doing a podcast soon about figuring out what you like, respecting your own genetic ceiling. But not to say you can't make great changes regardless of what your genetics are. But if let's say somebody has really narrow rib cage and it gives them this teeny little torso, if you don't have a narrow rib cage, there's nothing you can do that's going to emulate that. It's not going to happen. That's not your bone structure. You know what I mean?
Like a
Um,
little indent on your upper abdomen. That makes
yes.
it too.
Yeah, little things like that. Sometimes you have it or you don't, and that's a really hard thing to wrap your head around in an industry that is built upon changing yourself. That's what the fitness industry is about. It's about changing and theoretically improving yourself. Whether it always does is up for debate for sure. But you bring up a great point. Like body image and comparison is not new. It's been around probably since the beginning of time, certainly since the beginning of photographs, right? But
Mhm.
I think that pre-social media, people could kind of wrap their head around like, oh, those are models or those are actresses. Those are the elite and the few.
Mhm.
Now, with Instagram and TikTok and social media, you could just scroll forever seeing hundreds or thousands of just absolutely flawless looking physiques. And suddenly it doesn't seem like it's just this tiny little bit of elite people. Suddenly it feels like it's everybody but you
Yeah.
looks like that. And these are not super famous A-list movie stars. This is just like random so and so you've never even heard of before on TikTok. So I think that it's a lot easier to feel less than now than I think it even was when I was a kid, which was when, like, heroin chic, which is a terrible terminology, was like all the rage, right? That's what everybody was after. And I thought it was like pretty bad then, but now it you're not comparing yourself to Ally McBeal on TV. You're comparing yourself to every freaking person that you see on the internet, which I think is really detrimental to a lot of people's mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most just widespread human feelings in general is self-loathing and not feeling good enough, not feeling like you've accomplished enough, not being happy with anything in your life. And I think that's something we all share and we all feel behind in some way or the other. Like, oh, I don't have as much money as this person. I don't look as good as this person. I'm not as strong as this person. And we all share these feelings and we don't recognize it. It's just a communal thing. Like we're all experiencing this together, but we all feel so alone with this feeling.
Mhm.
Um, and it's also interesting because when it comes to body image, we all have a different ideal of what a good body looks like. So, like, I could ask you, what does your ideal physique look like? And that would probably be, or could be, completely different than what I would say or what someone else would say. Um, and I think that's another
And it
thing.
changes with time. Like it
Mhm.
changes with the trends. Like I just said in the 90s, everybody wanted to be stick thin. Now,
Yeah.
so back, I mean, you're younger than me, but back in the 90s, if you told a woman that she had a fat ass, there was literally nothing that you could say that was more insulting to somebody than, does this make my butt look big? Yeah, it does. That's like the worst thing you could say to somebody. Now, if were to imply that someone did not have a fat ass, that is like the most insulting thing you could say. And it just like bodies come in and out of trend. And that in and of itself is insane to me. And I always use that as a reason to like not try to change too much one way or the other. Um, Example, when I was a kid, I had very bushy eyebrows. And if anybody does remember the 90s, people plucked them within an inch of their life. They were just like a line.
Why?
Yeah. I mean, I never got it then, but regardless, I got made fun of a lot for having bushy eyebrows. By the time I was like 20 years old, people were like, oh my God, how did you get those eyebrows? And I was like, what? Like, what is happening right now? You guys tortured me for this for years. Now suddenly it's like in vogue. And then they got way bushier than my eyebrows ever were. But you you can't lean into the trends too far because you're just going to kind of lose the thing that makes you you. That's how I feel, and I know that's easier said than done, and I'm old enough to not give a shit anymore. But when I was younger, I would have been much more tempted to try to fit whatever that mold was in that moment.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, that's what I think a lot of people struggle with is everyone's just trying to fit into a mold that is just not attainable. Um, let's talk some statistics that I have written here.
Yeah, go for it.
9% of the US population, or 28.8 million Americans, will have an eating disorder in their lifetime.
What
That's a
was the
lot.
percentage? I talked over you.
9%.
9%.
28.8 million. Yeah. That's a lot of people. 42% of first through third grade girls want to be thinner. 81% of 10-year-old children are afraid of being fat. 81% of 10-year-olds, little kids, 10 years old, I just hate that. Eating disorders are among the deadliest mental illnesses, second only to opioid overdose, and above 26% of people with eating disorders attempt suicide. I think the biggest one that stands out for me is 81% of 10-year-old children are afraid of being fat. Like,
Yeah, and the kids, did you say what was the percentage of first through third graders are what?
42% of first through third grade girls want to be thinner.
That's terrifying because in first through third grade, you're supposed to be growing.
Yeah.
Like you're in active growth phase. And when I hear this stuff about kids, it makes me really angry at adults, actually,
Yeah.
because they only know what we teach them. Kids, especially like young kids, they're just parrots. They just repeat what they see and what they hear. Yeah, they're little sponges. And it's not just what we say, it's the media that we let them see or hear, and we need to be really, really careful about that. And I know that when I was a kid like that age, the generation older than me were relentless talking about their bodies and what they needed to change, and um you know just saying shitty things about themselves. And then when I came, like, I don't know, 12 or so, I remember being at dinner with one of my aunts and she was like, looks like you got the Taylor pores. And I was like, and I
Oh
went in the bathroom and
gosh.
cried. Like, she's talking about my pore size at 12 years
Yeah.
old. And all of that stuff has really stuck with me. I don't know. Did you have any experiences like that when you were a kid?
I would say I think the biggest thing that always stuck with me is like it seems so simple, but people asking me or like family members asking me if they look fat in this outfit or
Mhm.
like does this look good on them? Because it's like it's one of those things that most people do. Like, how do I look in this? Like, do I look fat? And it's like such an uncomfortable question, first of all, because
Right.
I'm never gonna say yes.
Uh-huh.
But it's also just like it's one of those things that you absorb as a kid, and then you start to think like, oh wait, they're worried about if they look fat in their clothes. Should I be worried if I look fat in my clothes? Like
Right.
it seems like such an innocent question, but it has an effect because
Mhm.
then that person is now worrying about how they look in their clothes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And then a lot of, I don't know, a lot of the women that were older than me in my life were just like perpetually on a diet. Like they were always dieting. So if we were out to eat, you'd be like, "Oh, do you want to have blah blah blah?" And they'd be like, "Oh, I can't have that," or "Oh, I shouldn't," or "Oh, I'm being so bad having this right now."
Yeah.
That sort of thing that really sticks with kids, and you start to learn as a kid, like, oh, eating French fries is bad. Why is it bad? And then, you could talk about what is or isn't like more health promoting, sure, but they were talking about it in the context of gaining weight, basically. And
Yeah.
yeah, kids absolutely learn that. And now that we have Daisy and Desmond, I mean, Giacomo and I are fitness professionals. We talk about weight and calories and stuff pretty regularly because it's no big to us. This is what we do for a living. Now that Daisy and Desmond are here, there is none of that. We do not talk about
Aw.
any of that in front of the kids anymore. We don't talk about, I mean, we'll talk about foods being healthy, like, ooh, you got to eat your broccoli because broccoli gives you muscles or whatever at dinner.
Aw.
But it's not like, oh, if you're good, you're going to get a treat. Like, we talk about food like it's a reward for things, which is a terrible thing to instill in kids. Um, we don't talk about our bodies at all, other than like, wow, you're looking healthy and strong. Like, that's it. That's as far as we go with that. And Daisy the other day, she was like telling a story. She was making up a little story about something that wasn't even real. But the point of her story was that some character in the story was fat, and that was funny. Like that's what she was getting at. Like, oh, ha ha ha, and this thing is fat, ha ha ha. And I was like, that's not funny. Why would that be funny? And try to have her tell me why it's funny. And I know why it's funny. It's because a lot of the cartoons and stuff she's seen, that's the joke. Like, that's the whole joke, right? Oh, this thing is fat. Ha ha ha. Right? Little tiny things we don't even realize are sending these messages to kids, make them realize they don't want to be the butt of the joke eventually. So they better not get fat because that's the butt of the joke. You know, it's scary. And I think we should all be conscious of the media we're consuming, but like, holy crap, do we need to be conscious of the media that our kids are consuming?
Yeah, it's honestly a big shame the way society puts such an emphasis on how much fat we have or don't have. It's like no matter what, you can't be perfect. If you're too skinny, you're too big, you're too this or that. It's really sad, especially being bigger. I think that's the biggest one, that it's just like if you are a certain size, then you are automatically lazy, you don't try enough. Like there's just such a perception of these people, and it's really unfortunate because most people who are like extremely obese, it's not, there's like so much mental
Yes.
happening with them that like it's just sucks because it's like the people that are like anorexic and have like bulimia and those kind of mental illnesses, they are treated much differently than people who are obese.
Yes.
And for some reason, we care more about one spectrum than the other. And that's another thing. It's like, as society, it's just we have so much love for being smaller. And I don't even know where that started. Like, it's just such an emphasis on it. It's really, really sad. I actually just saw a movie I'm going to recommend to everyone. It's called The Whale. It is an indie movie. You've seen it?
Oh my God, I saw it the day it came out.
Oh
The
my God,
day
you
it came
saw it.
out.
It's so good.
Giacomo and I, both of us. First of all, we saw it on Giacomo's birthday. Oh my God. Because
Mm,
I wanted to see it. And he was like, yeah, I'll watch it. And I was like, this is really hard to watch. I only knew a little bit. I don't like to spoil movies for myself before I see them.
yeah.
Lights came up and everybody in the audience, everybody was just friggin' ugly crying into their hands.
Oh,
Me, Giacomo, like it's one of those movies where it ends and you have to sit there for a
yeah.
minute before you can get up. But it was, I thought it was like close to a masterpiece. That's how
I
I thought it
agree. No,
was.
I agree. I called it a cinematic masterpiece when I left. It was the most beautiful movie. And just so everyone else understands why it relates, it's because it's about a bigger person, but it also shows all of the hardships that person went through and why they are the way they are. It's not because they're some lazy person. They went through such a hard life and they've gone through so many struggles. And it just kind of shows that side, which most people don't see and most people don't understand. And people that even do understand can still be kind of cruel. But I think it was, yeah, a cinematic masterpiece. Absolutely. It was really amazing, very helpful to understand obesity to an extent.
Yeah, and just like almost anybody that's kind of sunk themselves into a dark hole that they can't get out of, even if
Yeah.
it's a different vein. But I know there's been some backlash, like, oh, Brendan Fraser wore a fat suit for it, and that is insulting. But honestly, I don't think they could have found somebody who was that size to do the role
Yeah.
anyway. So like I totally I'm on board with the way that they filmed this movie 100%. But what I really loved about it is it wasn't a joke, you know? He wasn't the butt of a joke. He was a fully fleshed out character with a full range of human emotions and experiences and all of that. And I think a lot of movies that I saw growing up and probably you saw growing up, if there was an obese character in it, they were very one-dimensional, fat, lazy, slob, funny, right?
Yeah.
Like that's I mean, I can't, there's so many movies I can think of right now where that's that character, period, end of story. And this was not that. And I thought it was really great. And if Brendan Fraser doesn't get an Oscar, I say we riot. That's what I say.
I concur. It's also a very relatable film because it touches on so many different topics, so many different areas of life. Yeah, I definitely just will continue to recommend it. But speaking of movies too, on top of that, it's just like any movie or TV show that you ever see, everyone looks perfect.
Yeah.
Everyone looks so good in America specifically, because there are other countries where they will show normal face. Like my
Yeah.
face is pretty normal right now. You can
Mhm.
see I have bags, all the stuff, but like on films, they can edit every single thing out that doesn't
Yeah.
look right. And they are wearing loads of makeup.
Mhm.
So on top of all movies and shows or whatever, it was also nice to see him as a character who was very realistic.
Mhm.
Um, and we don't see that very often. So
Yeah. I in another life where I'm not a fitness professional, I own a vegan bakery and I do commentary on movies. So I have to be careful because I could just talk about movies all day long. But I do recommend that everybody see that movie. But also be prepared to like have your day ruined because
Yeah.
it stuck with me for several
Same.
days before I like kind of felt normal again.
I think
But it was really good. There was something else I was going to say about that movies, and I do think it's getting a little bit better. Like, just I've noticed that I am seeing more diversity in bodies in shows and movies now than I did a long time ago. So I think overall, I do think there have been some positive changes that we've been trying to make, like culturally. That dancing show, I forget what it's called, but that dancing show about Lizzo and her dance crew. Do you know what I'm talking about?
no, but I know of them.
One of my clients recommended the show to me, and I don't have cable, so I didn't watch it, but I watched some clips of it. And basically Lizzo, a lot of people know her. She's a bigger girl. She's a incredible singer, flautist, dancer. Like, she's very, very talented, and her whole dance crew behind her, she specifically wants kind of girls that look like her, so they're bigger girls. And a lot of times when we think, obese women, which, very technically Lizzo is, we're not thinking like, oh, I bet you that girl is a sick dancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not thinking, I bet you that girl could run circles around me with her athleticism. But I watched some clips of this and I was like, holy shit, like these girls can move. And it was, I mean, I don't think that that's the norm. I mean, I don't think most people can dance like that, regardless of their body size. But it was just interesting. It's almost like your brain has a hard time putting it together. Like, wow, that's not a thing I thought I'd see today. But there
Yeah.
it is. Like, it's really cool. And I don't think that show would have made it to television 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Things are definitely changing, but of course, just in general, it all affects our body image. So
mhm.
it's cool that they do have those kind of shows that are hopefully helping people improve their self-image in general. Because yeah, it's a really sucky thing. I think the problem isn't people need to recognize, or I would appreciate if they recognize that their body isn't the problem. It's not your body. It's not my body. My body's fine. Your body's fine. It's your body image. It's how
Mhm.
you feel about your body. I mean, unless your body, no, I was gonna say unless like your body just isn't physically capable of doing the things you want, then that's just your physical capabilities that you want to work on. But it's still not your body. That's the problem. It's how you see your body. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that we can all work on. And I think in terms of like wanting to have better body image, I think a lot of people want it and they just want it and that's it. It's just like, well, I want a better body image. And that's kind of where it ends. Like, oh, I wish I felt that way about my body. But nobody actually puts in the work to improve their self-image, to improve their mental image. And I think that's something that a lot of people are missing out on, because I think everyone, of course, wants to feel better about themselves. But then you ask them, well, what are you doing to help yourself? What are you doing to work on your body image? And it's like nothing.
Yeah. And you know what I think, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. So before I say my thoughts and what I experienced, how did lifting weights and getting into resistance training, like how did that affect your body image, do you think?
That's a good question. I feel like it had I feel like I think it had positive and negatives. I think it was an either or situation. I think it positively affected my body image because as I began lifting weights, I did notice I was growing muscles, and that did feel really good to see. So it helped me curate a body that I felt comfortable in. However, on the other end, with starting to lift weights and getting more into being active, I started following more people who lifted weights and paying attention to people who um, are like the big shots in weightlifting, bodybuilding, etc. And I think that part is what really started to hurt my body image, because I was making all this progress and I was really happy about it, really confident in it. But then when I would look at someone else, it was like, oh, well, I don't look like that at all. I don't like that. And it's like I was fine with my body really most of the time until I start comparing it to other people.
Hmm.
And I think when it comes to comparison, it can be, I think there's the quote, of course, like comparison is the thief of all joy, but comparison can be a good thing in certain situations, like comparing yourself to, a situation where, like, I feel uncomfortable with my body. Well, there's people starving. And
Hmm.
you can't always do that. Sometimes you just need to appreciate your emotions and let them happen. But sometimes it can be helpful of like, well, okay, your problem here, or how you feel about yourself is kind of insignificant compared to the people that are really hungry over there. And I don't recommend doing that all the time, but sometimes it can be a really useful tool to just be like, huh, like I actually don't have it as bad as I feel like I do. And that's not always easy, but it's just one tool that can be helpful for me
Hmm.
personally. What about you? How did it affect your body image?
So I think strength training in general really positively affected my body image. And then there was that dip, just like you said. I started learning more about it and being like, huh, well, that person looks really awesome. I would like to do that, please. And then I did. Then I did do that. So that's when I started to get into competing and I
Mm.
got myself in really, really good shape. Got on stage, competed in bodybuilding, won a lot. And do you know how that improved my body image? Zero. Nothing. And that's when it started to occur to me, oh crap, my body image has nothing to do with my body. Like if I'm stepping on stage with some of the better natural athletes in the world and I'm winning and I still come home and go, nah, I don't like the way this looks. I don't like the way that looks. Like it's not my body, it's my brain. And that was a huge wake up call for me. And when that happened, I don't recommend this route for everybody because getting in that kind of shape is really, really brutal and has all sorts of implications. But for me, once I reached that point, then I started to appreciate all the positives of being in a bigger body and how both ends of that spectrum, whether I'm at the top end of my weight range or the bottom end of my weight range, they both have value in their own unique ways and that I can appreciate my body at whatever state that it's at, even if I'm not always super, super into it. But
Mhm.
just that the unfortunate realization of reaching a really huge physique goal and realizing that I didn't feel any more confident in myself than I felt confident in my ability to achieve something. It gave me that, but it
Yeah.
didn't actually make me more confident in my body
Yeah.
was before. I was still just as self-conscious walking around in a bathing suit then as I was 40 pounds heavier. Um, so it had nothing to do with what I actually looked like. And I think that, if I could just say that to somebody and have them just believe me and skip that whole middle part, I think that would do a world of good for people. But unfortunately, like as a species, I feel like we always need to learn everything the hard way.
Yeah. Concur. You do learn the best lessons sometimes.
Mm.
The hard way. You remember them, that's for sure.
Do you think that if you hadn't gone down that social media rabbit hole, do you think that maybe it just would have been a purely positive trajectory with strength training?
It's a good question as well. I I don't think so. Just because it's not only social media, it's also the things I've been told my entire life and the things that I've always thought about myself and also the other things that you see. It's not only social media because there's also people at the gym that you can compare yourself to. There's people on TV that you can compare yourself to. There's always going to be people
Mm.
that you can compare yourself to. And that can really be a downer. But I think yeah, I think no matter what, I probably would have gotten to a point where I was like becoming more self-conscious again too. Um, and I also recognize that that's pretty normal. Like, unfortunately, it's a sad reality, but it's honestly a really normal one. And I think our goal every generation is to continue to try to improve that image just a little bit. Um, and just recognize that we are more than a beauty standard. That's not all that we have to live up to. And just noticing the shame that we feel around ourselves, I think that's really important first step as well. And not like beating yourself up about it or like because the thing is that people go through a cycle of like, they don't like their bodies, they don't like what they're seeing, and then they start to shame themselves for not liking it, like, and that's just like a really, really hurtful cycle, and it's not going to help anyone to get to the progress that they want anyways, if you're always beating yourself up. And yeah, that's what I had to say about that.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I do think that that's true. And it's, I also think it's kind of like a primal instinct to compare yourself to other people. Like sometimes you get mad at yourself for comparing yourself to other people. But if you think back to like the caveman days or whatever, listen, if you were the slowest person in the pack, you were going to get eaten by a bear.
Yeah.
So you had to be comparing yourself to someone else because you needed to be faster than them. Or like if you were too weird and too different, the tribe may not accept you and then you would die on your own. So
Yeah.
I think that there is actually like the lizard part of our brain that makes us feel like we need to fit in for survival, even
Yeah.
if that's not necessarily true now. I mean, yes, I feel like people do need community in some sense, but because your tribe, if you will, is not the 10 people around you anymore, you have access to the entire world through the internet, so no matter how weird or different you are, you can find a community.
Yeah.
um, but I do think like when you feel those pulls of comparison, there is a reason for it. Like
Yeah.
there's a deep seated reason why we do it, but we are more evolved than that at this point, and you want to be able to sort of logic your way out of that mental pretzel if you can do it.
Yeah. And I think biologically, I mean, I haven't done much research on this, but biologically, you'll notice, or first, I think most people notice that the older people get, usually they stop caring about how they look a little more. Like as people get older, they stop caring. Not to say they stop caring completely, but they usually stop caring to an extent, especially compared to like how young we are. And I think biologically, a part of that is that we are programmed to mate and to reproduce. And so there are some biological things of wanting to look good so that you can find someone to mate with
Mhm.
and reproduce with, subjectively good, by the way.
Yeah.
But I just like to put that out there. And I think that can also be a part of it. But I like this quote a lot of, my body is an instrument, not an ornament. That one really sticks with me because it's like, I think if we focus more on what our bodies are capable of, we would be able to appreciate them a lot more, and recognizing that they're not just to be looked at. They are for so many different things, and they're so much capable of so many different things. Walking, picking my arms up when I need to.
Mhm.
There's just so much that we
Digesting
don't.
food properly, as I learned the last couple days. That was a nice reminder, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm so grateful that most of the time my body just digests food like normal.
Yeah. There.
Because, sometimes it doesn't. And that's a good reminder of like how much work your body is doing sometimes without you even knowing it.
Yeah, like breathing. It's not something you think about. You just do it. Your body's taking care of you.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are, I think some things we should talk about is, what are things we do to work on our own self-image? I think that is helpful for everyone.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Do you got one? Go ahead, I'll think of one.
Sure, yeah, we can take turns. I would say one thing I do, specifically social media related, is I don't follow people that make me feel unconfident, I guess is how I would put it. I don't blame the person. It's not the person's fault. Like people, I don't ever want anyone to feel shame for what they post or, whatever it may be. But if it brings up a feeling of uncomfortableness, or if if it brings up feelings of envy, I don't follow the person. I will unfollow them. Not specific like my friends or anything, like, but like models, like people who I don't need to keep my life via social media because I'm not close with them. Um, and typically those are typically the people that I would feel envious of, is the people that I just don't know and just assume that they have it all and they have the perfect life and they
Right.
have the perfect body. But when it's with people, it's like you know the truth with your friends, that they don't have everything down pat. So I think that's the number one thing I do is declutter all of everything I consume, whether it's podcasts, music. I listen to happy music. I like music that picks me up, music that says good things about me. Like that one song, I am woman, I am something, da, da. Like that song makes me feel good. I listen to stuff that makes me feel good. I watch stuff that makes me feel good.
Except the whale.
Yeah, no, okay, yeah, not that one. But for the most part, like I'm making sure that the things that I take in are happy things. Like if you go to my Instagram feed, and you go to like the video section where you can like look at whatever it's called, because they kind of like it tailors to you eventually, but it's like all dog videos because they make me happy.
Right.
Like I make sure to tailor every single thing that I take in to be mostly beneficial in terms of I'm not going to listen to a podcast or watch videos that make me feel like crap about myself, or listen to people that say, oh my gosh, no sugar, da 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 da.
Yeah.
If you eat sugar, you're doing like, yeah, that's one thing that I do that really helps me personally.
That is a good one. And I agree with that. I also do very similar things. If I start to notice something is starting to make me feel not good when I'm watching it or listening to it or whatever, I just mute it for a while. And then if it comes back and it still feels bad, then I just will unfollow or unfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
Something else that I do, so we all have an inner dialogue, right? I mean, I guess there's some people that don't. I just read about this recently.
I've heard about
that. What do you think all day? But most of us have an inner dialogue, and a lot of times that voice is not super nice. We can catch it saying really not nice things to ourselves, but because it's in our head, like we don't really think twice about it. But one of the things I like to do is imagine. So before Daisy was born, I used to imagine that I was saying it to me when I was little. Like, would I ever have said that to me as a 5-year-old? Like, if the answer was no, I probably shouldn't be saying it to myself now. Now I try to imagine myself saying that stuff to Daisy. And that's actually even harder, believe it or not. And if I wouldn't say it to Daisy, I shouldn't be saying it to me. And it's a tough one because it is in your head. So, you have to get really used to catching it and asking yourself that question. When I very first started doing this, it was a long time ago, probably more than 10 years ago now. I literally probably looked like a crazy person, but I kept a picture of me as a kid at my desk so that I would see it regularly. And just that would help me catch, like, would I say that? Would I say that to that person? Or it doesn't have to be you as a kid. It could be like your best friend or your sister. But if the answer was no, then I would not say it to myself. And that's actually, took a long time, but now very rarely do I have to say that. Most of the time it's not about my body anymore. I'll just catch myself and I'll be like, oh, you idiot. Like that's what I'll think in my head. Oh, you idiot.
Yeah.
Would I ever say that to Daisy? No. So like knock it off, I don't expect myself to be perfect by any stretch, but I think it's a good practice to at least think about.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's one of the best ways is paying attention to your negative thoughts, because I think that's the first step, is noticing them. People don't even notice how much or how frequently they're talking down on themselves. So something I guess some people could do is start keeping track, like keeping track of the things you're saying, keeping track of, if you don't want to do that, keep tallying it up. Like every time you say something negative, just notice it and don't judge yourself for it. Don't shame yourself for it. Just notice it. And then from there, you can work on reframing those thoughts, either how you said, kind of picturing your younger self or someone younger that you care a lot about, you would never say mean things to, or just reframing them. So like one day you're just like, I feel really ugly today. Just reframing it. So like, I don't feel very confident today, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Instead of like telling yourself, I am ugly, or I am this or that. Because at the end of the day, you're not. And reframing your words is very important, because I am ugly. First of all, you can't be ugly subjective, and you can't even say I am feeling ugly, because ugly is not a feeling. So I'm having the thought that I don't look the best today. I think reframing our thoughts is the best thing that we can do. I I love that one. And also you can work on just developing more positive thoughts by giving yourself affirmations. And I know some people don't like that. Some people think it's a bit much. I didn't like them in the beginning when I first started kind of paying attention to them, because I was like, these aren't true. So why am I saying them? Like, I am happy, I am healthy, I am beautiful. It
Mhm.
doesn't, like, it feels so fake sometimes when you
Mhm.
don't actually feel those things, but it doesn't really matter if it feels fake. Saying it can make such a difference, because then those thoughts are going through your mind and you're consistently reminding yourself that I am beautiful, I am happy.
Mhm.
And I think that can be really, really, that's another one that I like. That's really, really beneficial, because it's not about, and if it does seem too much, you could say something else, just like, I am healthy today, or I am
I think
doing.
so I'm the person that's often like, no, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I found a few that I didn't even realize they were affirmations for a long time, but I do it all the time. I'll just be like, I've got this. I've got this. Like constantly, if I have to go do something that's really hard, I'm
Yeah.
telling myself like, I've got this, we've got this, it's no problem, it's going to be so easy. Like those are all affirmations, right? They're not I am happy, I am beautiful, but they are still like, I'm going to get through this, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Not body image specific, but find your own version of that that works for you. It doesn't, you don't have to 100% believe it. Like I wouldn't be saying I've got this if I was 100% sure that I've got this. I wouldn't have to say it, right?
Yeah.
But you'll find something that feels better to you over time. And some of the, more abstract ones eventually might not feel so weird too.
Yeah. No, I agree. And asking yourself questions, just like asking yourself, like, what makes you feel bad about your body?
Hmm.
Why does it make you feel bad about your body? I think a lot of people don't spend a lot of time, um they don't spend a lot of time with themselves. That's
Yeah.
a good way to put it. Many people don't spend a lot of time with themselves. They don't spend a lot of time with their thoughts, constantly distracted. Every second we're on our phones, we're watching TV, we're reading something. When we're eating, we're reading something. When we're with people, all we do is talk. Nobody spends enough time to actually hear the thoughts in their head. Most people don't spend enough time journaling, which I don't do, but I do spend time in terms of like meditation or other forms that can help me see and give me some clarity on the thoughts that I'm having, and just asking yourself, like, what people are making you feel bad about your body, and why is that? And then you can actually start working. These are ways to actually start working on your confidence and start working on having better body image, because you can't really work on things that you have no information on, or what's actually causing the body image feelings. So I think that's a great way to start as well, on top of everything we've already said, of just kind of being more curious, like, where is this coming from? Why do I feel this way? um I think that's a great way. Someone could journal about it, they can just think about it, meditate on it, whatever it could be. I think that one's one of my favorite tools of
Mhm.
trying to, like, why do I feel this way? It's like, oh, because that guy said this. So okay, why do I care about his thought about me?
You bring
uh,
up a super great
I
point. So
know.
I noticed with some of my clients, especially if they had a bad week, because all the questions we ask our clients about how their week went, you get a sense, right? You get a sense for how their week went. They're like, oh, work was super stressful, or this bad thing happened, or blah, blah, blah. And then later in the check-in, they mention that they've just been feeling really bad about their body.
Mhm.
And over time, you start to realize, like, a lot of times when we're feeling bad about the way we look, it's actually we're feeling bad about something else, and we're just taking it out on ourselves and on our bodies. And a lot of times it has, someone can feel like they look amazing one day and feel like they look like trash the next, even though in reality, you pretty much look the same from one day to the next, right? So it has nothing to do with what you look. Something else is going on. And a lot of times we're just taking it out on ourselves. So
Yeah.
that was something I noticed many years. I mean, I noticed it in myself, and then I noticed it. Oh, it's not just me. A lot of people do this. A lot of people take stuff out on their bodies, which is really too bad. But you can't change it until you at least notice it. So
Yeah. No,
another thing that I think is a really good tip, especially if you are struggling with your body image, I think a lot of times, a lot of those thoughts that come up multiple times throughout the day are because your clothes don't fit you right. Like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna die on that hill. If you are wearing clothes that are uncomfortable to you, if they're cutting or digging or rubbing or something in a way that doesn't feel great to you, you're going to think of it 100 times in the day, right? You ever just wear something and you're like, I can do this. And then you leave the house and you're like, this was a mistake.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I have clothes that I still should be getting rid of. Because I'm like, this doesn't fit. And it's like one of those things where it's like, it probably shouldn't fit because that was from like when I was in high school. So
Right. Right.
it's time to get rid of it.
And sometimes it's like a special occasion and you're like, I'm just going to wear this dress that I haven't worn in 2 years and it's going to be
Yeah.
fine. And then you get out and you're like constantly tugging it down because it's riding up or whatever. It's just not fitting you in a way that feels comfortable to you. You are going to feel crappier and crappier and crappier about yourself all day. And it's one thing if this happens at a special event somewhere, but a lot of people are walking around in clothes every single goddamn day of their life in clothes that don't fit properly and then wondering why they feel so bad about themselves. So I have been everything from a size 0 to a size 22. And I don't care what size you are. If you're wearing clothes that don't fit you right, you're gonna feel like you're too big. That's just how you're gonna feel. I've been a size 4 wearing a size 2 feeling like I'm enormous, which is the dumbest thing on earth. But if you're squeezing yourself into clothes that don't fit, you're going to feel terrible. Get rid of the clothes that don't fit. If you must, put them in a box, put them in the garage or something like that, but stop trying to wear them because it's just making you feel worse. Wear comfortable clothes, please.
Have to do that. I love it. No, I completely agree. I think clothes are not emphasized enough, especially gym clothes. Like having gym clothes that make you feel good and feel hot when you're working out, and like you can see your muscles, or if you prefer being more covered up and not seeing anything, like that makes you feel good. Like just having a nice pair of clothes, especially a new one where you're just like, yeah, everyone's looking at my new outfit, which no one is, but so feels good. I love that one. I think another one that I really like is being nicer to yourself and congratulating yourself more on the little things. I think everyone puts such an emphasis on everything they didn't do right that they forget about all the things that they did do right. So when it comes to like your body image, instead of always thinking like, oh, like I had all these negative thoughts, like think of one thing that you could say something positive about. Like, oh, well, I was really thankful for my legs today, and I thought about that earlier. Like that's a good thing to congratulate yourself for. Like, hey, I noticed something good. I noticed something. I like my eyebrows today, and I noticed that. Like, or even just noticing the negative thoughts. Like, oh, I had the negative thoughts, and I noticed them. Congratulate yourself for that instead of consistently tearing yourself down about everything. I think that can make such a big difference in just being more proud of yourself, being more thankful for yourself, being more thankful for what you can do, what you're capable of. And yeah, just celebrating your body more in terms of the functions that it's capable of can make a big difference on body image. And I think just stop caring about what all the random people on the internet think of you because
chances are they don't. Yeah, right. They don't think of you. They don't think of me. They don't think of Athena. Like people are busy dealing with their own stuff.
Yeah, and most people too. It's like think about everyone in your life. Think about every single person in your life, and think about the judgments you have towards them. Like, are you the people that you love, or the people that you don't? Like, does their weight bother you? Because I can't think of one person and I know a wide range of people that are extremely small and extremely bigger, and it's like I don't care. Like it does not affect me. It does not affect the love I have for them. And nobody's viewing you in that way either of like, oh, yeah, she's my cousin, but she's bigger, so I don't like her as much. Like that's not how people look at you. People don't care generally about other people. I mean, they do, but like in that body image, like people don't actually care about that. People are so much more focused on themselves. And I think if people realize that, of like that everyone is worried about their body image for the most part. Not everyone, but most people are. Most people are more focused on themselves and how they look than they are about you. It's just the matter of truth.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of like you're worried about people who are not thinking about you at all. basically.
Yeah.
You're worried about what people think of you who are not thinking about you at all. And that's what most of us spend a lot of our time worried about. It doesn't even matter, you know? One more little tip that I have. Again, if you are struggling with your body image right now, and you're like in a moment and you need to deal with that right now. You kind of mentioned it at the gym and your gym clothes and like, oh, if you want to be more covered up. So gyms can be a really triggering place for a lot of people because there's mirrors everywhere and you're looking at yourself all the time. And sometimes you're seeing yourself and you just kind of almost can't stop thinking crappy things about yourself. Like, I am a big fan of the hoodie, like just throwing a hoodie on and doing your workout. And this isn't just for the gym. Like, if you are somebody that's every time you go pee, you're, checking out your abs in the mirror to see how things are going, you need to stop doing that. Because it's very easy for me to say, hey, you need to just stop doing that, but you should work on decreasing doing that because it's not a good thing to do for your mental health. And it's definitely indicative of a much bigger problem. And we can say that when you're going into the bathroom, like, okay, that's just straight up body checking. But a lot of what we do at the gym is body checking just because there's mirrors everywhere. So even though the gym is a place where a lot of people almost feel sort of pressured to work out in very little clothing or very revealing clothing or very tight clothing, which I'm honestly very comfortable in, like leggings and a sports bra at the gym. But there are some days, particularly after a contest prep for me, when I am actively gaining weight very quickly, which I know I need to do and I'm doing it on purpose, but it's still not fun to watch. And to this day, if I'm in that situation, I'm gonna wear a hoodie while I'm doing that because I can protect myself from myself for a minute. I think that if you're catching yourself doing that, I have clients that go through periods where they just cover the mirrors in their house until they can get through a rough patch. And some people might say that's like avoiding the problem, but sometimes I think that's just a tool to get through the worst of a problem with as little like self-harm as possible.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I haven't heard of just covering up the mirror. I guess I don't know that I have an opinion on it either, but yeah, I think everything we've said, it's like it's easy to say, and it's easy to kind of just say do this, and but at the end of the day, these are all little things that everyone can implement, and you don't have to implement all of them all at once. You don't have to you can just implement one thing at a time. I think the biggest thing is just to notice the thoughts and notice the shame and let go of the shame. I think that's one of the biggest first things that you can do, which is what you also notice, or that's what you noted as well, of reframing those words and thoughts, and just recognizing that no person in this world is more or less important or significant than another person, especially because of how they look. I don't value anyone based off of how they look. Value is not based off of appearance. It's based off of heart, in my subjective opinion. I don't care what anyone looks like at the end of the day, because what matters most is really just how we feel and how we treat others. And I always like to compare myself personally to when sometimes I'll literally go on Snapchat and pull up the grandma filter, and I'll look at myself as a grandma, and I'm like, okay, when I'm like 98, I'm gonna look back on my photos and be like, damn, like you look good. I'm gonna think I was so beautiful and so hot. So I like to look at that sometimes, where I'm like, okay, this is how I might look when I'm old in my 80s, and I'm gonna feel really good about how I look right now when I'm at that age. Sometimes that's little things that helps me, just recognizing like, when I'm older, I'm gonna look at myself like, dang, I should have appreciated myself more.
Yes, you are. Yes, you free. So by the time this comes out, I will be 37, which I don't think is old by any stretch, but it's older than I've ever been, so it feels old to me, right? And already looking back at my pictures from when I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, I'm like, oh man, she was so cute. Like, she was so cute and she didn't even know it. And that's so sad, right? And it's the same way that sometimes I look back at pictures from certain bodybuilding competitions and I'm like, holy crap, I was shredded. And I didn't even realize it when I was like that. And, you know, maybe that's just like the way life is. Maybe everything is hindsight is 2020, which is really a shame. But if we can try to find I bumped my table. If we can try to find like a sliver of that appreciation in the moment, I think it can only make our lives so much better. You know, today I look at myself and I'm like, oh, my face is like starting to change. I feel strange about this, but like you said, in 20 years, I might see this video and be like, wow, I had no idea, like I was so pretty or this or that. And
Yeah.
it's, you know, try to find it now.
Yes.
If
Pull
you
up the
can.
grandma filter and recognize how beautiful you are right now. Because that honestly makes me feel so confident when I look at myself as a grandma. I'm like, dang, I do look good. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all perspective, really. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, everyone is so beautiful in their own perspective, right? And there is no definition of beauty. It is all subjective. And it's something that you can work on. Body image and how you feel about yourself is something you can work on. You are not doomed. And paying attention to your thoughts is the first step.
Yep. I agree. All right. Good talk. Good talk. All right. I'm going to wrap us up.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. If you have anything that you want to talk about pertaining to this topic, come join us in the Facebook group, Muscles by Brussels Radio. It's a free group. We just chit chat about stuff. Anything you want to hear, let us know. You can find us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at Vegan Proteins, and Athena's handle is at I am just Athena. And also Giacomo is at Muscles by Brussels. And if you have any interest in any kind of coaching, veganproteins.com. We have coaching for all different levels. You can hit us up there. Again, thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Dani.
And I'm Athena.
And we'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.